Okay, am I on? Can you hear me? I know my beloved Billy will let me know if my message is not getting out there adequately. So I'm give it a couple seconds and just kiki with y'all while I get confirmation that this is working. Because, yeah, last time I started a couple of minutes ago and something was up with it. We got a new computer, we've got new tools to work with, and so we are just like still setting things up and things. Okay, yay. Bailey says sound is good, and then I mess up the picture. Ugh, you're so cute, Sheeps. Here you go. No, one more time. There. Beautiful hands. Pull it back. There it is. Wow, great. Hi. Welcome to Sheba Sunday. It has been a minute, y'all. I've just been traveling. I've been resting. I've been dreaming. I've been loving. It's been so fun. Me and Billy have been having a great time. We've seen friends. We've had so many good conversations. We've just been having a really beautiful, interesting experience of this thing. And I'm glad to be back. Welcome. I don't even know what episode this is. Maybe like 20. Does it say on this? Episode 19. Yeah, sorry I left you hanging for a little bit at episode 18, but everything's made up, and that's why it feels strange to stop on 18 rather than 20, but who cares really? Yeah, this place is good and Palo Santo'd now, because I've done this twice so far. Yeah. How you been? Spring has sprung in my interim. It's been really lovely. We got our grass cut, which, I'm sometimes like, why? Why do I need to do that? Let it be feral and fecund. But it was a little bit hard to walk through. Not that I did that very often, but anyway, now it's, got a nice clean space to regrow and stuff. We've seen some beautiful rabbits. There have been some awesome birds. There have been some really beautiful magnolia blooms. So I've had a lot of cool things to be grateful for recently. And amongst them is like being able to be in nature and just chill. It's great. On Friday, I had an episode of Black Bunny Hole on the great Tina Turner, now the late great Tina Turner, and it was really fun and interesting to like learn more about her life and to see what that process like picked up in me, what things like I realized about myself and what things that I thought were like important to highlight versus what someone else might highlight. And I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really funny episode, one of my best ones yet. So if you haven't seen it yet, go to my page on YouTube and go to Black Bunny Hole. Get the most recent episode, Tina Turner. It's so good. While you're there, just watch all the other ones too. It's really good. And if you're watching this 5 years from now, like, go back and do your homework. Because, like, see where it all began. See where the magic happened. See what this beautiful process was like. Yeah. So the Tina Turner episode was so fun, and I'm really glad I got to do that. I'm glad I got to share it with Billy and my mom and some other people whose opinion I value, and the feedback was very great. It was really great. One thing I did get a note on from my mother was that, I could cultivate a more balanced view of Black men, because I myself, know and have experience with like truly really awesome people who happen to be Black men. And, she wanted me to give a maybe more balanced look at them, because I can sometimes be a bit harsh in her estimation. And, she said that after my Tina Turner episode, in which I did talk a lot about Ike Turner, and not just about his musical accomplishments and his, difficulties in childhood and how he navigated that, but also about his triumphs in relationships and in life, but also in, you know, how he was really abusive, and um, like how he acted when accountability came a knocking, you know, um, when a woman told her side, her perspective of how their relationship went. And I think, you know, I tried to look at him grappling with, you know, wanting to salvage his reputation and wanting to be thought of as a good person, wanting the good things he's done to be remembered, and to not be defined by this, but also being confronted with the fact that, like, hey, when this woman separated from you, this woman who, you know, you put on the map, so to speak, separates from you and like does way better than she could have done on her own, that she was way happier, that she was loved, that she was more free outside of this man's presence, I think is a really important thing to highlight. But I get, you know, where my mom comes from. I think definitely, you know, she's certainly of Tina Turner's era, about like 10 years younger than her. But, you know, I grew up listening to Tina Turner, and Ike Turner. I didn't realize that like Ike Turner was like in it, because like I was listening to it for like the words and the songs and the lyrics, and I was like, who's Ike Turner? He plays the guitar in it. And so it was interesting as I grew up and learned more about the world and life to see like my view of like, I don't know, just what I thought was different. These awesome, beautiful songs that I grew up like feeling like, these are so great, had a really dark, you know, backstory, which was tough to grapple with for myself. And also I think tough to grapple with, you know, for my mom and other women, and other people, you know, who are taught, you know, we're taught to think about our elders in certain ways, and then we grow up and we're kind of not given the space to look at them as they are. And that's tough. So anyway, I wanted to do this episode, which is called Men That I Love, to highlight, you know, I think a lot of times when I talk about things that the patriarchy has allowed men to do and get away with, people want to be like, oh, well, not all men, not all men, which is like a not super helpful thing, because like I don't need it to be all men, but all men are benefiting from the allegedly few ones who are being really shitty, you know? Women and men don't know who is going to be a good guy, who's going to be a bad guy. They're not going to know what, you know, the criteria is. I think a lot of times if we have, you know, financial success or success in the capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchal system, you know, you're a good man. And we're taught kind of to like, you know, forget the ways in which we're actually not that great, you know, of a person. And yeah, I think a lot of maybe women throughout history have had to kind of, in order to stay safe and to navigate through this world the best they can, they, you know, give men their props. They're like, not all men, you know, we know their hearts and they've been through a lot and they're trying, and you know, this is just how it is, and like that's just not sufficient for me. So I am all about adding nuance, and I do want to highlight these men who I have really awesome experiences with, and I think other men should follow, other women should follow, and should understand, you know, what makes them awesome in my esteem. Because yeah, I don't want, you know, no one is beyond redemption if they really want it. And so I don't want there also to be any excuses for men to be like, oh, well, we don't have the tools. We don't know how to like do whatever. We don't know how to be good. We don't know what you want, you know? How do we do it? Like, okay, fine. I have to point out the critiques and give you the solutions. Fine. Okay, cool. These are possible tools that the men folks can use, and the women folks can use to like assess whether or not this is a person, this man is someone you want to entangle yourself with seriously, you know? Um, yeah, so anyway, growing up, I saw, men like my father, and like who else did I think of like as a father kind of figure? Like, what's the guy's name? Bill Cosby. I saw these guys as like successful men who didn't have criminal records, who were married, who were in the home, who were working, who had education and or like knowledge, um, and exposed us to a lot of interesting perspectives and the world and things. And I saw that and I valued it. I remember thinking like I wished Bill Cosby was my dad, because like I thought my father was very harsh. I felt like it was kind of difficult to know when he was in like a jokey, cool mood and when he was in a not jokey, like serious mood, where if I say the wrong joke or I'm a little too casual about something that I can't really anticipate, he would like scream at me and yell at me and just be like a whole thing. And so I loved watching Bill Cosby, be so jovial and fun with his family and loving with his children's foibles and, responsive to his wife and his, family at large and stuff. I was like, I love that. Oh my God. I wish I could just like laugh with my dad and be like, Dad, you're so silly and embarrassing. And him not like scream at me for daring to be, not like, having a completely glowing review of him. So like, imagine my surprise when I learned that Bill Cosby was also maybe not a super great guy in real life. He was literally just an actor who was good at performing, being respectable, being good, being a good man in this society in which, that kind of just means you can make money in this capitalist system and you can navigate through this kind of not fair system that like benefits dudes. I also grew up seeing like, I don't know, like OJ Simpson, Clarence Thomas, R. Kelly, just like in general music and media and comedy showcasing like black men who are, um, successful in certain ways, but like other ways like very problematic. And I saw them like when they've done like a problematic thing, like be accused of murdering one's wife and then running for the police and stuff, or being accused of sexually assaulting a black woman in the workplace, no less, or like sexually assaulting black girls. Like, I saw us at large as a people, black people in general though, being like, well, okay, but like white people have been really shitty and they're just trying to harm this rich black guy in each of those things. And like the black women, are best should do best to like be quiet. They're just lest they be branded some people trying to harm black men. And I just saw that like being thrown around really casually in areas where like, I mean, now we have Clarence Thomas making like unable to fire him, making really biased decisions that affect black people's lives, impact their lives oftentimes very negatively. And like maybe if we'd have had a little more, challenged black men more, if we'd have like had a little less grace for them, if we'd have given a little bit more credence to women's words and perspectives, perhaps we wouldn't, now be having to deal with like, oh, this old white man is like paying a black man who has this great job and we don't really know what to do except like call him names. I don't know, Is that going to change anything? Who knows? Anyway, so yeah, I saw people like that being highlighted, and celebrated, and kind of women's work, women at best being highlighted as like accessories to men who can, like, like stand behind their man, and they might not agree with everything, but they choose their battles, and they recognize this is a good guy. And I don't know, I think women have just done so much valuable labor that we've been told is unvaluable, and it's natural, so we should want to do it, but it's actually like shitty labor that's necessary, but like the dudes don't want to do, and so they leave it for the women to do, and then don't even like pay us accordingly, and then they treat us bad, and then they keep elevating lame dudes. I'm just like, come on. Anyway, so I see like, yeah, I think green flags Billy asks about. Yeah. I'll get to it. Okay, man. Men are really powerful. I see a lot of power in you. And this is something that I've talked about since the beginning of Sheba Sundays. Something for me, like, if you have power, it really grinds my gears if you don't recognize it and use it appropriately. And I think men have all the power in the world to create everything they want. And I think they have. I think this is the world that they want, that at least they benefit enough from, that they're not really willing to change substantively. I don't know if they have enough incentive. And I think that just because of like how the world looks, like if there was a big incentive to make it better, it would be better, right? I think the status quo has kind of worked well enough. Men can just like attach themselves to this image of being a father and a good man and a husband. And like, I'm supposed to ascribe all of these really positive things to them, but I don't know if that's like, if it's accurate, right? I think we have this idea of like when a man is married or has children, that they're a father, they're a leader of their family. And I don't know if they are, like, look at our world, I see men having this power to be these, like, they like get a lot of value from the idea of being these protectors and providers for the family, but I don't know, there's still great poverty. It's never been harder for people to buy homes or afford medical care or even food. We're supposed to say that like men are these protectors. Like, y'all can't even protect yourselves. You, in every kind of demographic, die sooner of more preventable causes than women do. Like, you can't even protect yourselves. Why do I have to just, by virtue of being born into this world, agree that like men are the protectors? Like, I'm just not seeing it. Would love to though. And I see men being really passionate, like on the internet, about like, when I do see men like protecting, standing up, and like being passionate about advocating for someone, usually, one, they're playing devil's advocate. They're advocating literally for the devil. They're talking about who's the GOAT at basketball, who's the greatest of all time, who's the greatest football player of all time. Like, why does it matter? I guess I'm curious about if it's Jordan versus LeBron, how does that fundamentally change the reality that like children still have to labor for pennies, that adults still have to labor for pennies, that we're in this like world where the number one cause of death for children is gun homicide. Like, why do we care about the GOAT? Billy says, it's a narrow set of definitions for what a good man is. Also a narrow set of definitions for good woman. But they're very different burdens. Exactly. Like, I think, men's burdens, we reward. We reward, like, the burden of having to make all this money with a lot of money and a lot of access and a lot of leisure and a lot of grace. But women, we reward, like, the narrow definition of women. You're a mother, you're a wife, you are the, follower to your husband, the leader. You are the protector to your child, but the husband is a protector to you. So he's really doing the hard work. And it's less like, I don't think, you know, I don't know. I just think, like, when a woman does work, we kind of devalue it. And so then we also leave the task of, like, the very important task of, like, loving men solely to women. So it's almost like, why would we leave that important task to the women folk, the people who we kind of say your labor isn't that valuable? Anyway, so I see men in their narrow definitions of what a good man is, feeling very confident about being passionate about, arguing about who is the GOAT. Which one of these rich men is better at playing this sport that white men created? They talk about how to make more money. Which one of these men is the best at navigating through these systems that white men made? Is it Elon Musk, or is it more Jay-Z, or is it, this older man or this older man? I think men are taught also to, follow whatever rich men tell them to. So whatever the rich men think is the issue that's important, men are supposed to think that. Whatever rich men think is, like, a distraction, is bad, men are supposed to, like, go along with it. And, like, I don't know, I think, the reason there's so many men in, like, the military, why there's so many in, the police, I think men are kind of really good at doing what they're told and going along with what is, and not challenging it too critically. Just understanding what is, and learning how to fit yourself into it and benefiting it, and telling yourself that this is the best way to keep everyone else safe, by doing exactly what I'm told in this exact kind of way. Just feels like, I don't know, I think you guys are being tricked. I also fear the consequences of having too much grace for men and not challenging them, which I feel like men love a challenge. They love making everything into a challenge. Like politics, work, sport, regular games, just interacting. I think a lot of times when men get together, it is for, like, to watch a competition. It's to engage in a competition. And it's interesting then when a woman is like, hey, men, you guys are really powerful. You have all these skills and talents and creative ingenuity. So use it to, like, solve these issues that women keep talking about, that lots of people keep talking about. And I think, like, where women are expected to, like, do all of this unpaid labor without reward, they're supposed to do all this labor without reward. Men struggle to do labor that they're not going to be rewarded for. So I see sometimes, memes that are like, men are supposed to feel comfortable crying, but, like, look, when Will Smith cried, everyone laughed at him. When this guy did this, people laughed. Like, that's not really an excuse, I think there's a lot of things that men are going to need to do that I'm going to highlight in the men that I love, that they do, that they're not necessarily going to get applauded for. And yet they're still going to have to do it. They might not be rewarded for it in the monetary way they have been before, but that's not an excuse. You still got to do it, which is the kind of feminine thing to do. Doing something because it's right rather than because it's going to make you money. Billy says, LOL, women do this too, but it's men with the power to really challenge power in their spaces. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like, these are spaces that have been, like, designed by men in order to benefit men, and they've actively excluded women. So sometimes when I see, like, a kind of like, well, women do this too, absolutely, but we certainly don't get paid like we do it too. We certainly don't get the benefits of existing in society. Like, society isn't catered to women in the way it is to men, which is why when, I give, like, a very kind of, I don't know, frank, nuanced discussion of Tina Turner and Ike Turner, people still know it's too mean. It's still too mean. Oh, come on. Don't let the man know that, oh, yeah, okay, he wasn't perfect, but neither were women. And like, that's not sufficient, you know? And yeah, men do have the power to challenge men in their spaces. And so I think men have been taught kind of not to listen to women and to think that we're like just naggy, harpy shrews who are only talking about frivolous things like shopping, and they just want a man to take care of them and they don't have to do anything, and they just get to like trap a man with a baby, and like a man has to pay money. It's just so like Billy says, doing things and creating, asserting, and manifesting with commitment. That seems quite masculine. It needs to be defined as such. I think so. I think doing and creating, asserting, and manifesting with commitment, I think we do identify those as masculine traits. But when we see them in women, when we see women doing those things every day, we don't think of what they're doing as feminine. We think of it as like masculine and thus wrong because a woman's doing it. And it's just like, why not just see that, like, you know, masculine and feminine, we're just attached to those labels. You're making those up, you know? Like, I'm not like feminine or masculine because I have a great creative ability, because I'm an excellent protector, you know? Because I'm great at providing sustenance and love and nurturing and the thing that a human needs to survive. Like, am I masculine? Am I feminine? You know? I actually dressed kind of like this today. It's giving like medieval, you know, pirate queen / like damsel in distress, because I know that men are trained to kind of hear things from women when it comes in a specific vessel. So depending on what I want, I have to like be aware of the pitch of my voice, because men struggle to hear women when you're talking like this. You know, you like think that like we're these little girls who you're supposed to teach and like, you know, control and stuff. But when I talk like this, you can like hear me. And a lot of men might be like, why is she trying to be a man? Ugh, that's unattractive. Thinking that men and women's relations should always be to be attracted to each other rather than to like listen to each other, to learn from each other, particularly men learning from women. Anyway, I digress. So, how long have I been? Oh, 30 minutes? Perfect. Great preface. So now let me get into what makes the men that I love different, exceptional, very, you know, not all men. Very like, I like men actually who are not like other men. I think a lot of times women are encouraged to kind of be like, I'm not like other girls. I'm not like other women. I think it's just internalized misogyny. I think women are awesome. I think girls are awesome. And I think they're more awesome, more creative, more brave than men. I think it's really brave to like present how you want and people be like, oh, that's ugly or weird or gross or weak, blah, and still doing it. That's brave. And I don't think that's something I see from men, except for the ones that I love. So let me talk about some of these men that I know personally, some that I know, but I don't like know, so I can't super vouch for them because like, also like I don't want, you know, I don't want people to be like, oh, really, Sheba, the only men that are like, not all men are the ones that you know and love, which like, yeah, but also like, yeah, sorry, I have good taste. I'm a taste maker. What can I say? I'm a king maker, some might say. And I'm really good at attracting awesome quality people to me. Amongst them, a couple dudes. So yeah, I'm going to talk about those guys, and I'm going to talk about some dudes I don't know super well, but I like what they're doing. I see what they're doing, and I want them to do more of it. I want them to harness it and like cultivate it a little bit more, because I think you're on the right fucking track. And then I'm also going to talk about some dudes who I don't know, but I follow them on Instagram. They're other influencers and things, who I think, men, you can learn some really interesting perspectives and techniques from these dudes. So I hope you stay through to listen to what I gotta say. Um, but I'll also have a little thing, you know, written so you can go right to it too. Um, so on this list, I'm only gonna have maybe one like celebrity, because I just know now I've been burned enough to understand that like I don't really know the people that are elevated to the top of things. They just did this misogynoir in, misogyny in music inquiry. This is in the UK. They do. They just studied the music industry and how, if at all, misogyny manifests. And like, basically, it's like because it's a very network based, informal kind of relationship based industry, it makes it so men who have harassed or assaulted or made women uncomfortable, when women complain, because they're the minority, the women are the minority, they're the ones kind of like shaking things up, calling out bad behavior. The men in this network-based things are just like, well, let's just ice this woman out. Let's just sideline her. Like, she's ruining our thing. She's harshing our mellow. Like, let's get this harpy woman out. And they promote the problematic dude. And so other women are like, okay, well, I don't want to work with this dude who keeps being able to act however he wants and no one really says anything. Yeah. Anyway, I say that a lot. And so that is also why, yeah. So if I was like, 13-year-old Sheba, I would have been like, Bill Cosby is a guy to follow. He seems like a really good guy, a cool, loving, great dude who treats a girl how she's supposed to be treated. 17-year-old Sheba would have been like, yo, follow Chris Brown. He seems like a really nice young man. I love that song, Yo. I used to listen to that on my headphones, on my Walkman, all the fucking time in high school, and being like, man, I wish someone would think about, like, sing that about me, would think that about me. That's because I ain't no shit. And so now, at 35, I have learned, let me not put all my eggs in this man basket, because there's a pretty good chance that I don't have enough information to make a fully informed decision on this dude. So there's going to be one guy who's in like the celebrity classification that I'll talk about. Okay, anyway, with no further ado, people I know personally who I love, men, Billy Bunton. He's amazing. Love him so much. He's like, just really perfect. He reminds me a lot of my little brother and my mother. The best parts of my dad, but mostly reminds me of my mother in that he's just so loving. He's so like brilliant, and he's very like he sees what needs to be done. He sees what different people need what done, what he has control over, and he tries to help. Was it today? He was just like cleaning up around the house, and he knows like I don't like to clean, like and he does the task that I don't like, gives me like the easiest form of that task. He's like, just sort through these like old papers or whatever and stuff, but like otherwise it's just really awesome. He like does the dishes, he does a lot of the cooking. I don't really like going to the grocery store. It just gets very overwhelming, and like I don't know, I like I don't know, I just kind of like having, when I conceive of a thing, like, okay, I want to eat lunch, I like for it to like be readily available to me, and sometimes I just get like bogged down by the thought of bringing it together, and I think he's really great at going and doing stuff like that, and so it's really awesome. It takes so much off of my like mental and emotional plate, and I really appreciate that. I also recognize that like that might be framed as like women's work to like keep the house and to make sure that everyone is comfortable and cozy in a home. And that's crazy. That's ridiculous, that we should only leave that to women. Why should men, who are supposed to be the protectors and the providers, not be expected to make a safe, loving, comfortable environment for the people within the home. I don't like that we have this idea that protecting and providing only looks like you work outside of the home in this capitalist thing and you provide a living situation. Like, that's like both not enough and like very, yeah, it's just not sufficient. And yeah, I love that like the men that I love are like, they go against the crowd, like I think I see, married men like live longer, they're happier, they make more money than single men. And married women, they also, married men live longer, than a married woman as compared to a single woman. Like, married women don't live as long, they're less happy. I read a thing, single moms, when they've come from like a divorce, they find that they have higher levels of happiness and less work to do when it's just a woman and her children to care for, which tells me something about like the labor that women take on in marriage, and that's kind of forgotten about. And it's kind of this idea that men are doing the really hard work of going out and like providing all of this stuff, and women get to just sit there and live off men. And it's just, I think it's just such a gross mischaracterization of what's going on. So I love seeing men who can like navigate that much better than their four brothers and fathers and grandfathers have done. So yeah, I think Billy and my brother Zarin are just very like helpful, thoughtful people who like understand like what needs to be done in a certain situation. Sometimes it's like we need to just breathe, grieve, hold each other, chill, regroup. And sometimes it's like we got to do this like annoying thing that no one wants to do. You're not going to get any glory for it, but you got to do it. And I think like Billy and Z are really good at like coming to help people and like not making them feel like burdens, because we all need help. It's like a human need is connection and belonging and cooperation. And Billy and Z, I think, are really great teammates. They're really good people to have in your corner. I'm like so lucky. Our apocalypse team is really stacked. Like, you want people like Billy and Z on your team, and they're not. I think a lot of times men think, you want to be the guy with the most guns. Like, absolutely not. I would rather go out in the first wave than be stuck in a survival team that includes like the gun nut, yeah. I also have so people who I love but I don't know as well. My brother-in-laws Lloyd and Jeff. They're really interesting people. Lloyd's an elevator mechanic. Jeff he works at Social Security, but he used to be like in the military. I get the sense that like men are kind of good at the status quo, kind of what is. They'll fit themselves into it, and they don't attach themselves too strongly to it. But I don't know exactly what I'm saying on that one. But I like about Jeff, my brother-in-law, he has a son that's in Germany, and I like that, when his wife, my sister-in-law, was like, hey, you need to go have a relationship with your son. I think we allow men to just be like, no, that kid's in another country, his mom's annoying, like his mom makes it difficult for me. And like they kind of accept that as like a reason to not be a protector or provider, to not love and nurture the responsibilities that you created. And so I like that Jeff, when prompted, when challenged by a woman, he rose to it. And they went, and he's been fostering a relationship with his kid, and that's great. That's what I expect. I love seeing my brother-in-law Lloyd, who's the father to my two nieces, um, takes in a really active role. You know, of course, my sister still does the majority of things, as that is how we, we place a lot of burdens on mothers to do a lot of things, and we say, well, it's the kids bond more with them, or they're better with it. No, they're not. We just expect women to be better at it. So women rise to that challenge. Maybe if we challenge men to be better at it, they would be better at it too. But I think Lloyd is like really great at being loving, at being a soft landing spot for his girls, at like challenging them, but loving them, and not like limiting them to just like damsel in distress roles, and or like, I'm the parent. You have to do what I say because you're the child. Like, I think he does a really good job of like allowing this new human to like learn what it's like to like feel all these human emotions, to like feel what like fear or regret or annoyance or discomfort is, without being like, hey, stop it. That's not nice. That men aren't gonna like that. Like you're to this, you're to that. Like he kind of really allows them to be, which I know can be frustrating and scary. Certainly, I know a lot of men are taught kind of to control things. If people are crying, you gotta control it. Gotta stop the crying. That's the important thing. And if you can't stop the crying, you've like failed somehow, or the thing is defective somehow, and you have to let it know, like, you're not supposed to be crying. And like, I don't think that's what humans are. I think crying is something that we don't fully understand why we need to do it, but we do. It helps. I think it's another language that we have access to that's like tells us even more sometimes than like spoken language does. So yeah, just giving people the space to cry and, experience and expand. I love affording to Lloyd and Jeff the opportunity to like, I don't really know them that well in the scheme of things, but like the women in their lives who they've attached themselves to, my sister and my sister-in-law, I trust them, and I know that they are strong, powerful, independent, loving people. And they chose those men, Lloyd and Jeff. So I see that they saw something in them, and I see these men like rising to the challenge of like loving, powerful women like that, and not seeking to make the woman like smaller to make him comfortable, like really rising to the challenge of expanding. Yeah. Oh, so also my friend Ish, who is my friend Jessa's husband, and they just had a child. Ish is really cool. He really interesting person. They both met when they were performers on a cruise ship like 10 years ago, and they both like lived like full lives, but like kept in loose contact and like found their way back to each other, which I always love. And Ish is just a really interesting person who like he's written a cool book on it's called like Happy Brain, and it's about like the science behind like the chemicals in your brain and the different physiological processes that lend itself to happiness. And also like I think he connects it to like in his own life he was like shot, and like navigating that experience. And it's just like I'm always interested in Black men who like find a way to do things differently, and by differently I mean like I don't know, we're all told, I think kind of told you're supposed to like make money. If you're a dude, if you're a Black man, like you're supposed to, and make it in a specific way, like either like it's in a capitalist white supremacist kind of way, like either in hip hop or music or movies or sports or business. You gotta go to business school, you gotta be a tech something or like a banker. And like I just think there's so many more ways to be successful and to be helpful. And I love the ways that like Billy shows that, Z. It's interesting. They all are different things. I I'm drawn to artists and people who have a creative way of doing things. I think a lot of times we tell people that like art looks a very specific way, and if you're an artist or a creative, you have to work as like a painter or something like that. But that like I can be an artist, even though what I do to pay the bills isn't being a painter. I still have a very creative way of navigating through life and like getting all the things that I want, and including like esteem and whatnot from other people. And so I admire that in dudes too, when they're able to do things differently than other guys. Any old person can get into politics or government and fail upward until they're at the top. If they just try if they stick with it long enough, if they're willing to like, have blinders on and like not, speak up about the shitty things they see in the sausage factory. I like when dudes avoid that. I like when they see like, oh shit, something's wrong here. This is wrong. Oh no, we're the bad guy, and they leave. That's great. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you keep people safe. Assessing the situation and realizing, oh no, what we've been told is not what is. So like, let me get out of this. Yeah. Okay. So love that. Oh, also I recognize that like my brother Z is in the military too. And that Jeff started in the military, and it's Memorial Day actually. And I've just been like reading and learning more and more about how like everything's made up. And I did always think it's weird that like, how come we're still solving our global and local conflicts in kind of the same way we always have, which is just like Hulk smash, whoever, kills the most people, like, gets to like win. It's like a not very great way to solve things, or at least it just gets us this far. And I don't know if it's really us trying to change things, like I think there's this kind of inevitability sort of that like, well, we need this military that's this strong and powerful and well funded because there will always be bad guys. But like, I don't know, a hammer sees everything as a nail. What if there's actually lots of ways to exist without a military, but we never challenge men to think of another way, because being violent, being like the stronger physical, person, the person most best able to like wield violence wins. Like maybe, and has often been men. Like, of course, lots of men are kind of accept the inevitability and the necessity of a strong military and of the use of force. Like, well, yeah, you guys are good at it. Of course you want that to be the way. But what if the way forward, the way to peace is for y'all to like lovingly share each other's traumas and feelings, and to be afraid and to admit that you don't know what you're doing, and that like you're scared and tired and you want to rest and you don't know what you're doing. I think that's something that scares a lot of men, scares a lot of people. But I think men are not really taught to sit with their fear. They're taught to like, no, when I'm afraid, I work harder, right? I work harder. I don't work smarter. I grind when I'm afraid, and like uncomfortable feeling. No, not me. I'm working out, and like, that's not really what we need. We need you to do the difficult feminine work of resting and listening and dreaming. I don't know. Yeah, so I know some people, Kurt Hilton, Aaron Godland, Slim Williams, my friend Kenny, my friend Greg, my friend Patrice. These are all dudes who I see like in their own ways they're trying. Like Kurt, he was like a football guy. He was on he was like on some part of the coaching or managerial staff of Stony Brook Billy's. I'm pretty sure one of his Billy's football programs that he was in. Kurt was in the coaching management staff, and he's since then had a stroke and has been raising a lot of awareness and capacity building in other people, certainly Black people and Black men, because there's been a lot of medical racism and just a lack of awareness of like strokes. Like, you know, you think of it as like kind of an old man. Like I don't even really think of strokes, but until I learned that actually it is something that maybe, you know, they haven't tested for as much in Black people. They haven't documented what it looks like in Black people or Black men as much. So, you know, that just disadvantages Black people. And so I see him, you know, learning through his own experience of what things to come up with. And like, I think he's grappling. He certainly grappled when he first had this stroke with the loss of use of his physical body, which I think a lot of men are told to put their eggs in that basket. You know, like you're feeling bad mentally, keep working out. You know, you just need to go on a good run or something, you know, or like you're struggling to make friends, you know, join a football team, join a sports team, you know. Like directionless in life, join the military, you know, like there's all these physical bodied things that men are expected to always be able to rely on. And then in the very real event that they have a stroke or they're otherwise disabled or not able to use their body as they always could, which doesn't even have to necessarily be traumatic, it could just be a job loss or a changing industry or something, they don't know what to do. You know, they've been taught that their value is in their ability to produce in this capitalist system and their ability to use their thing, and being strong is the important thing. And so if they're not, they don't know they haven't built up that muscle of understanding someone's value past what their body looks like. And that's not just for themselves. They struggle to see women past, you know, like, oh, a woman's body is for having sex, and otherwise, you know, you're going to get a man for the important tasks, you know, for the thinking, for the moving stuff around, for the planning. Those are men's tasks. And if a woman is either not sexually attractive or unwilling to, you know, fall under a man's control, it's like we're supposed to think of her as bad. She's a bad woman or something. And I think men also think of themselves as not great when they aren't able to perform masculinity as they can. So anyway, I think Kurt's an awesome dude. Billy agrees. Aaron is really cool. He's a very interesting person. I met him doing improv. He's like a big supporter of comedy. He's into like anime and cartoons. He's a Black nerd. I see him with his father a lot, which I love. And he's just a really cool, supportive guy. Like I see him in my, you know, podcast, sometimes Billy's podcast, just really engaged, trying to learn, being a good community member, you know, trying to spread information about like just different ideas, more expansive ideas of what it means to be a Black man. And that's awesome and necessary. Love it. My friend Slim, who I met on a cruise, actually, me and my family met him on a cruise after my dad died. We like went on a cruise for Christmas, I think. And Slim and his wife were there, and they happened to live near us. He's really cool. He's a poet. He's a Black nerd. He's a tech guy. I think he's running for mayor of DC. And so, like, I love a man that's trying. I love a man that's, like, using his great power creatively to navigate through the system and to help others, you know, on the way. And I love a man who can, like, exist with me and not make me feel uncomfortable. Like I struggled a little bit with Slim to like, I couldn't tell if he was trying to hit on me at first, because, you know, I'm beautiful. I don't know if dudes are ones who have been like lots of dudes think that men and women can't be friends, and so when they interact with women, it's not with the intention to be my friend. It's with the intention to try to convince me to have a romantic relationship with them. And like, I'm good. I'm so loved. I'm so romanced. I don't need it. And so like, it can feel very overwhelming sometimes with dudes, certainly strangers who are like showing interest in me. I'm like, okay, I've seen this movie before. What do you want? And so it was really refreshing to see like a guy, a man who just sees me as a full person. That's also what I think all of the men on this list, they really still see me as a full human. Yes, a beautiful woman, but also like a brilliant person, funny, clever, kind, generous, you know, flawed, but only in the ways that like, not in like the serious ways, you know, like kind of clumsy, I guess. I certainly say what I mean a lot, and it might not always be the right thing to say, but I appreciate the men who like are like, yeah, I like the cut of that girl's jib, you know, and they don't try to like crush me, you know, they don't try to trap me like an exotic bird, you know. So that's really awesome. My friend Kenny, who is a really interesting person, very nuanced person. He used to work as a lawyer at like one of these fancy corporate firms, and he quit to work for like a government agency, which is kind of like not done. Like it's kind of strange, you know, for me to be working in government for as long as like an administrative law. I think a lot of people are taught, certainly men, certainly black men, that if you go into law, you're supposed to go into like specific things. Corporate law, you know, become a partner at one of these firms. You're supposed to be a politician, or you're supposed to be like a prosecutor, something. And, you know, I love when people resist that groupthink, that pressure to do this. And like, you know, Kenny was very much like, I hate this. I hate having to kind of, you know, reduce my blackness, and I have to kind of, the cases we have to take are like, you know, it's not necessarily the underdog, and he has a much better work-life balance now and things, and just like a work-life balance to me is just like you value living. You know, you might not make as much money, but you live more, which, you know, I never wanted to be someone who was making all this money but had to be on call, you know, couldn't, you know, commit to spending time with family because I had to be at this job and things. Like that's not what we need. And so I appreciate when I see men who do that, because it's probably especially hard for men to resist that urge to just make as much money indefinitely as you can. So love Kenny for that. I think he's really cool. My friend Greg, he's really cool, and in a different way, like than Kenny. He just got married and had his first child. You know, it's interesting. I feel like a lot of the people that I love, a lot of the people, men and women that I love, I like a lot of older siblings. I don't know why. Like maybe it's because I'm the middle child, but like I love seeing like how older siblings navigate through the world. Like these adults have so many expectations of them, and for them to be able to like navigate through kind of on their own and like pass along their knowledge to younger people who are not necessarily thanking them for them, not necessarily working with them, you know, making it easy, and they're still just like, I love you. It's very feminine, honestly. It's very like motherly. You know, someone who's like kind of like, whatever, mom, like, oh dang, oh bleh, mom, but also kind of expects you to be there to nurture them and to love them and to be there for you when you need it. I like guys like that. And I see that in Greg. He's the oldest of his siblings, and I think has done a lot to keep his family safe and loved, and it's really interesting to see, you know, him in this new phase of his life, and I'm excited to see him to continue to expand. one thing that I think didn't work out between us was that like I got the sense that he would be more comfortable with a more traditional woman in like a African slash black understanding of what that means, and that's not me. I'm like just gonna say what I feel. Z said, I mean, so I do that a lot, which I hate. I confuse Billy and Zarin a lot, but it's okay. It just means I've got a type. It's like really sweet, powerful, bald, light skinned men. Billy says, I only met Aaron once. We got to hang soon. Yeah, Aaron's good people. He's good people. And like, I see him randomly at things. And when I do, it feels like I'm like on the right path. Like the universe is like, see, Aaron's here too. You're on the right path. Yeah, okay. And so my friend Patrice, who I met in the comedy world, we actually met after like I did like my first set in Baltimore, and it went really well, and I was on like a high, and I saw Patrice outside with the other comics, and he had like I think I saw him come in, and he was wearing like this like powder blue jacket and like a yellow satin do-rag, and I was like, who's this interesting personality that just came into the thing? And he actually asked me on a date, and it was like the first time that I'd been asked on a date in a while. I was like with Billy, and I was like, it just felt very like, I was like, oh my God, you think I'm awesome too? Hell yes. And we went out, and it's like, I wasn't feeling it romantically, but I thought he was a really awesome person. And I think he's younger. I think he's like 31. He's still figuring it out. I think he's going to be a really good partner to someone. And especially it's good because he like ran into me and Billy and seems to resonate with us and vice versa. So I think he's going to be fine. But I think he's like a really loving person. He has like a softness to him that's just so beautiful to me. Like, I love being able to be friends with dudes who like I might not necessarily be romantically interested in, and they're still like, they still recognize the value of my friendship or being in relationship with me. And I know there are dudes who are like, oh no, they're just waiting till blah 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 so they can swoop in. Like, don't worry, Billy's really really amazing. And like, if someone is kind of waiting around for me and Billy to break up, like, they're like, it will come out that they don't really have my best interests at heart and things. So anyway, I think he's a really cool person. He's really soft and sweet, and he like would carry around food with him to like give to houseless people he happens upon, and he tries to like use his comedy to say different things to try to I don't know, I think he tries to punch up, or at least laterally, and he is just an image of black masculinity that like I think is sexy and cool. Yeah, just making people feel welcome, being open to stuff. I think a lot of times I see guys being like, nope, I've never done that, I'm not gonna do it, and like taking that as like a badge of honor. And it's interesting, so I was talking about Ike Turner actually, and so he like was sober for the first 31 years of his life. He like never did drugs, didn't do alcohol, and he was very like, he would kick anyone out of his band if they violated his sobriety policy for like 31 years. And then allegedly two rich men, Elvis and like Red Fox, introduced him to cocaine, instantly hooked. Like, I just think sometimes men get attached to this idea of who they are, but like if a strong man tells them to do something different, they're like, oh, okay, let me try it. And like it like derails their life. I was like, guys, come on. Just because a guy told you to do it, you do it. So I really appreciate men who, do things a little differently. Okay, so like, this is the one celebrity who I think is kind of cool. I think you guys can like. Dwayne Wade, He's a basketball player. He might not be a basketball player anymore. Um, he's married to Gabrielle Union, who I did a Black Bunny whole episode on. And I really love how he loves his family, including his black wife, who is, you know, as wealthy as him, you know, who is powerful, who's outspoken, um, loves her very openly. I have them as a couple on an old vision board, but on it his nails are painted. He's wearing like a pink suit, and it's just very like, I love that. So sexy, so hot. He has a trans daughter, and he's super supportive of her, and he's very vocal in that support. He's very proud of her, and I see a lot of people, you know, who have treated their family much worse, trying to criticize him as like, you know, oh man, you know, white people have done a number on us, which we have to unpack in so many different ways. Or like, you know, I would never see my father doing this and blah blah blah. It's like, you know, that's sad. I think, you know, we should all hope to be loved and supported by our fathers as much as Zaya Wade is, Dwayne Wade's daughter. And I think a lot of us are going to spend a lot of time unlearning and healing from the experience of having fathers who were not as loving as Dwayne Wade is, you know? So I think look there if you're going to look for a celebrity. But I also don't want us to get too parasocial relationships. You know, he's also a very wealthy person, and you know how I feel about the wealthy. Not doing enough. They have a lot of power and they're not doing enough. What's the point of being wealthy if everyone's still going to be in poverty, you know? Yeah, so anyway, all these people I know, I feel like they see women as full people. They can still feel like men, even when they spend most of their time with a woman who is her full self, who isn't like performing, femininity, you know, making herself smaller, you know, making him the lead, doing like, you know, forgiving his really unforgivable foibles and things and stuff. So I love, a man who loves a full woman, a full human. Like, yeah, I think so. Certainly with like Billy and Z, and Lloyd, Zaren's my brother. Um, you know, they are with women who are, you know, driven, successful, smart, strong, unique into their particular things, but women who are also very loving and nurturing and feminine in many ways. And these dudes like love it, you know? Billy Z and Lloyd like love us so much, and I'm really happy that my sister is with someone who like really gets her. My sister is like an athletic director. She's always been really sporty, always been a tomboy. And I honestly, I was surprised that I was the one who turned out to be a little bit gay, you know? But my sister it's been so interesting to see her at every evolution, and to see Lloyd like love her in all of her evolutions too. I'm like, yes, love that. So I love a man who can like, you know, and I think me and Billy have talked about this. Like, I'm not for every dude. Like, I might be too intense, too big for lots of men, and I like men who see someone who other men are like, oh, she's too big for me. I can't handle it. I love a man who can handle it. That's so sexy. It's so good. It's hot. Yeah, but in general, I think all of the men I like, they are kind, they are helpful, they're thoughtful, they're nurturing, they're gentle, they're aware of their power, and they're gentle with people. They're loving, encouraging, gracious, concerned about others' comfort and growth. You know, they center others' experience of the world a lot of the times. Um, I like the men I love are open and solutions oriented. I think sometimes I see men being like, you know, life sucks and this is how it is, and we women, am I right? And um, or like, yeah, you know, work is work, and it's just I work in this shitty thing, and that's just and like I hate that kind of idea. I hate that mentality. And the kind of sunk cost, you know, I've spent a long time doing this thing, so I got to keep doing it. I like men who can be like, this is not how it has to be, and so like let's change it. Even if it's like an internal thing, they're like, this is not how I want to be, so I'm gonna change. Um, yeah, I love that. I love like this is not what's best for me or for the people in my circle of influence, so I'm going to change to a situation that is more beneficial. I think that's great. Um, I think guys who, you know, speak up slash speak against the crowd, I think men are all taught kind of that they're all these lone wolf, independent, free thinkers, which I think just makes it easier to trick them into believing some really regressive groupthink follower, like peer pressure kind of stuff. So I like a Billy who is, you know, sometimes I think he'll get anxious that he's like, am I being a killjoy? I don't want to be the like sunning people and being like, hey guys, should we be doing this? But like, you need someone like that. Sometimes we shouldn't be doing the thing, whatever the thing is. Like, you do need someone. You hope there's someone who was like, maybe let's not do this. Is this stupid? Should we not do this? You know, I bet a lot of people who are in jail or, you know, have died or just like not in a great situation wish that there was some dude who was like, y'all, do we have to do it this way? Maybe let's not. Let's do something else. Like, you wish you had someone like that. And I just see how powerful it is that, like, I'm married to someone like that. That my brother Zaren's someone like that. Lloyd's someone like that. Like, I love that in a dude. So yeah, like, I've seen some of these group chats and all male spaces and all male rooms, and it can be an echo chamber of dudes who are just kind of parroting things that they've heard older men say, and they're all performing masculinity, and like no one is real. And so I love someone who's real. And if you're real, you might also be perceived as weird, you know? They might be like, but like, doesn't mean you're wrong. And it doesn't mean they don't fucking love it. So, yeah, let's see. What else? What else? Solutions oriented, yes. Rather than like, you know, I can't do this. Like, how can I do this? How can I do it? How can I get it done? Willingness to do the feminine work of loving, I've written here. And that includes listening, it includes understanding, it includes unlearning, it includes honesty, accepting, giving without reward. Those are all things I think I see like women being expected to do all of these things and being celebrated for doing these things. And I think we need to celebrate men for doing that. You know, listening more, understanding, doing the work and not getting the credit, doing the work and giving someone else the credit, you know, helping someone who can't help you. Yeah. Love when men do that. Please, more of you do that. I have written down here Jesus. I think, yeah, in my conception of who Jesus is, he hung out with his mom and with a woman who we have collectively grown to understand as a prostitute. Even though they have a word for prostitute in the Bible and how they describe them, and they describe Mary Magdalene as a woman who had like 7 demons cast out of her, which is not the same as a prostitute, but because of men telling a story over and over again, like we've kind of had this understanding that she was a prostitute that you know, Jesus like took pity on and hung out with, despite her profession. You know what my dad told me? What, like, he just hated like being wrong if I was the one who was right, and like I was talking about how like they never, she wasn't a prostitute, but like that's what they have led us to believe that she is, like, but it never says that in the Bible. My dad was like, they never said she was a prostitute, like that's not what you learned. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not the one who went to Catholic school and like wasn't very clear on what I was taught. And it was just like he like really hated the idea that like a young woman had more knowledge about a thing that he thought he was supposed to be the authority on, and he just like wouldn't allow it. So anyway, that's an annoying trait I see a lot of men doing. Kind of, it's like, oh, a woman thinks it. Let me question it. It's like you don't have to automatically. We know stuff. Anyway, Jesus, I love when the disciples, the dudes, are like, hey, look at those prostitutes over there. They're like, selling their wares, and they're like tempting us to sin. Like, what should we do? And Jesus is like, you should gouge your eyes out rather than tempt, like, lest you be tempted to sin. He's not like, oh, you know what? We should all go and tell those women to cover up. He doesn't ever do that. He doesn't say like, oh, we should go and talk to those women about how they have other options, how they don't have to do this. He doesn't do any of that. And I want more men to model yourselves after that. Hang out with your cool, slutty friends and recognize that they are just people. When you have a bunch of, some bread and some fish, feed everyone just because you can, because it's generous, because it's loving. Don't feel the need to teach them how to fish, even though 8 of your disciple friends are fishermen. You don't have to do that. You can just give them food. Give people food because they're hungry. Be loving like that. Turn over tables in a temple if you see people are being capitalist in a temple or whatever. Be like, no, this is not what this shit is for. Do that. Disrupt some shit. That would be really cool. Yeah. Also, Jesus, didn't seem to feel the need to get married. So don't feel like the only way you can be a good person is if you like go the pastor route, who's supposed to have a direct line to Jesus, but like, I don't know. I think you used to be a good person. You can hang out with hoes. You can hang out with your mom. You can hang out with your dude friends. You can hang out with the poor. You can hang out with, the people we're supposed to discard. And you're still awesome. You're still a king. You're still powerful. Yeah. Anyway, influencers / celebs to follow. So these are some people who I follow on Instagram who I think other people might love, and who I think are like getting it right and are trying and are modeling for other dudes how you could be, how you can still be leaders, how you can still be masculine, how you can still blah, 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 and feel good about yourself. So I've got the Conscious Lee. He does a lot of great things dissecting stuff that affects the Black community in a really interesting, funny, relatable way. He's a philosopher and speaker and writer and lots of things. He's really cool. Kier Gaines is also similar in that vein. Donnell writes. He has more of a, I think he looks at a lot of Christianity and the Black church and how that different issues that like influence Black people in that regard. That's Donnell writes. FD Signifier. He's like a philosophy guy who explains a lot of cultural, philosophical points and stuff in an interesting way. He's very Black nerdy also, if that resonates with you. Tune the Fork. He's great. Him and Billy just connected. His name is James. And him and Billy just connected, and like Tune the Fork is like, it seems like they talk to people in the Black community on issues about like masculinity and growth and healing, and it's awesome. It's very necessary work, and there's so much like unlearning and conversations that we need to have, and we need to, you know, be a little bit better at navigating through conversations and conflicts where people have big emotions. You know, like if you see someone crying, doesn't mean the conversation's over. If you see someone stonewalling, you know, if you see them getting really heightened, really angry, you know, that doesn't mean, you know, oh, the conversation's over. You know, you still got to do it. And you might not see the rewards of it immediately. You might not be like, you know, it might not look cool. You know, how we've been taught to kind of like look like we know everything, that we're so smart, and that like anyone who challenges us, we destroy. There's a right or wrong. I think we have to like live a little bit more in the nuance, in the unknown, in Pandora's box. You know, I think we sometimes are afraid of like opening Pandora's box, and like, what if that was like a story that we know because a bunch of dudes saw a woman doing something they were too afraid to do, and then they were like, oh, it was bad. That's why we have disease and death, because this woman did the thing that we were afraid of doing. I don't know. That kind of makes sense to me. And I think we sometimes are afraid of, oh, the Pandora's box, of the slippery slope of things. And I don't know. What if it's a slippery slope, but like you got skis or something, you know? It's all right. We can handle slippery slopes. We can handle a lot of stuff. We're really good at it. It'll be okay. All right? You don't have to be so afraid. And yeah, so those influencers consciously, Kier Gaines, Donnell Wrights, FD Signifier, Tune the Fork. These are non-exhaustive lists, but these are just the people who like I keep seeing, who are Black, who keep coming to mind for me, who are Black cishet people who I think a lot of Black cishet men can learn from and heal from, and just like really evolve. It'll be great. It'll be great. What else have I written here? Bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I give you these men to follow. I give you this whole thing because I think men are conditioned not to take women seriously. And so I, you know, don't expect like this one to get a lot of views. But I hope that it's quality over quantity of views. That whoever does see it is like, maybe this harpy woman is on to something. Let me see what she's talking about. And hopefully you'll see, like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I want you to heal and to be better. Selfishly, because I will be safer. My sisters will be safer. We'll all be safer if we just like are a little bit braver in certain ways. If we're a little bit more feminine in certain ways. I think a lot of men, you know, a lot of people, we have parent wounds, mother wounds and father wounds, caregiver wounds where we like didn't get enough nurturing, and we put ourselves out there and we were kind of crushed or smacked back down. So we're afraid now to do that. I know that like I get the sense that a lot of men want to impress a father or older brother or, you know, older male figure. They want to be validated and approved of by these men. And we've been taught kind of, if the man is rich, you want to be approved by them. And I hope through this and like other conversations we're going to have, that like financial success is not the end all be all to like, you know, role models, male role models, certainly Black male role models. So yeah, go to those influencers that I told you about. Dwayne Wade's pretty cool. You know, much more accessible is like Billy, my brother-in-law. Ask me about all the guys that I know. They're pretty cool. Yeah, and I just want to like, it's been so long since I've been on this. Let me see. Okay. crystal balls, Sheba's visions. Um, I envision that, yeah, if you guys like take me at my word, like assume that I'm acting in good faith, I'm trying to help. I want everyone to have this knowledge. Um, I'm very good at loving and cultivating a human, Billy's doing great in large part because of the love I show for him. And so I want to help point other people in the direction of people who can help them feel loved and thus spread love and blah blah blah. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know why I'm feeling like self-conscious now. Like I'm like, is what I'm saying stupid? I don't know. I know it's not, but yeah. So I think if you listen to these dudes, Billy, Z, Ish, Consciously, Kier Gaines, Donnell Wrights, FD Signifier, Tune the Fork. What's his name? James something. Maybe if you could put Tune the Fork's guy's name in it. If you check out these dudes, really have an open mind to what they have to say, I think we're going to get out of this thing. I think we are going to get out of this thing alive and thriving. And it's going to be awesome. Man, we're going to be having so much fun. We're just going to like see how powerful and expansive we are. And it's just going to be really beautiful. So I think that's what's on the horizon. So final challenge to you men. Challenge you to get through this whole video. Challenge you to tell me what you learned from it. And I just challenge you to, you're so powerful. You can save this thing if you want to. And I think you would love that. I think people want to be the hero. You don't want to be the one that saves the day. But consider that it might not just be one. It might be a lot of people. And a lot of those people are going to be women. A lot of those people are going to be maybe non-cisgender, heteronormative men. And it's okay, Yeah. Anyway, dudes, I hope I have given you a slightly more balanced perspective on, like my assessment of men and, where you're at and where you can go. It can be a beautiful place. If I can't say so myself, Billy's having a really beautiful experience of this world. And you could too, if you would just be brave like Billy. So do it. All right? I love you. I know it's been a minute since you've heard that from me, but I do love you. You're amazing. Everything's made up, so let's just do better. Yeah. All right. See you. So it's Monday, so stay tuned. Like later, Billy's going to be talking. So, get you some. Oh, okay. James Shelby. I always wanted to be named Shelby. I thought Shelby was a cuter name than Sheba. Isn't that like made up and so like weird? Probably because of Steel Magnolias. Anyway, James Shelby is the creator of Tune the Fork. He's another man you should follow. Thank you, Billy, for giving me that name. Go ahead and watch Billy later today on How Billy Sees It. You're gonna want to know how Billy sees it. He just has a tendency to see things in a very beneficial, helpful, generative way. So listen up, hoes, okay? All right? Not all men, all right? I don't ever want to have to devote this much time to talking about men again. So if you guys could head on over to Tune the Fork and How Billy Sees It and Consciously, I would greatly appreciate it because I think women have done enough unpaid labor and it's about time for us to get paid. All right. I love you. Happy Memorial Day. I hope you are enjoying not working. If you are working, everything's made up. So, love ya. See you soon. See you later tonight at How Billy Sees It. Bye.